Seattle is set to raise their minimum wage to the highest rate in the country, which will be $15 an hour in the next 5 years, which the new pay floor will be implemented into phases depending on how big the companies are. Large businesses that are very profitable, that have over 500 employees nationwide, will get 3 years to make the change to the new pay, while smaller businesses will have 5 years to keep up. After all businesses have finally caught up with the new pay requirements, the minimum wage will continue to rise 2.4% each year, regardless of the rate of economic inflation. Of course, I don't have to tell most of you that automatic increases in wages in this country are extremely rare. This change was led by Mayor Ed Murray, who voiced his intentions back in September during his mayoral campaign. There was a 24-member advisory committee that was crafted in order to create a compromise package back in December, which was a 4-month work in progress between business owners and labor leaders, including restaurant owners. It is very significant that restaurant owners and businesses agreed to these changes and agreed to this bill because the law also provides protections for tipped workers, who after a 5-year grace period will no longer have their tips counted against them as part of their wages. These separate minimum wages for tipped and non-tipped employees within the city of Seattle will disappear. Currently, 102,000 residents in Seattle are making less than $15 an hour. So raising their minimum wages will pump an estimated $500 million into Seattle workers' pockets. And the coalition co-chair David Rolfe said in a statement earlier this week that this change, quote, will pump nearly $500 million into Washington's economy, proving that higher minimum wages actually fuel businesses and job growth. So what do you guys think?
Do you know who took sort of a major step in Seattle, in the SeaTac area, to get this minimum wage passed? Councilwoman by the name of Kshama Sawant. Now, she is a socialist, gasp. And look, this is what socialism does. It aims to help people by raising their wages. Isn't that an amazing concept? So I just wanted to point out her hand in this. And I'm glad to see Ed Murray sort of champion this cause and, you know, basically spread it out. And look, America has needed a raise for a long time. There's just no excuse to pay people $7.25 an hour and then have them go on public assistance. And I know that some of the state minimum wages are actually higher than the federal minimum wage. And I get that. And in a lot of places it's somewhere around $8 to $9. And still, that's not enough to survive. $15, when you break it down, and a lot of people will say this, I hear this argument all the time, is that $15, oh my God, that's so much money. It's going to bankrupt these companies. No, it's actually not. Like small businesses, they're going to feel the impact. But as Sean mentioned yesterday, the larger places, who this sort of targets in a way. And I know you can't pass a law targeting one company, so it does affect all. But the idea of this law was really to target people like McDonald's and Walmart, who can handle these minimum wage increases because of the economies of scale. And so, you know, the whole purpose behind these minimum wage increases is so that you put more money in people's pockets, which is obvious, and you reduce federal government welfare systems. And so to see a socialist come here and say, look, this is more of a market sort of thing, because that's what it is. Minimum wage is like a market solution to poverty. You have the companies pay more, pay their people more, and they'll get off government welfare. it makes a lot of economic sense, and it's just the right thing to do.
And the smaller businesses should feel a lot less of an impact because they're getting 2 more years for the economic benefits from the larger companies' better pay to actually take an effect, and then people will start buying more. They'll have more spending money to spend in smaller businesses and local businesses, and they'll actually get a lot more profit, and they'll be able to better afford, better transition more easily to the $15 an hour pay scale.
Right, and look at in Seattle, man, being like super progressive too.
Right.
You know, $15 minimum wage. Damn, we can't even get an agreement on 10-10, and they're over here saying, "We got your 10-10. You know, let's just show you our 15." All right.
I mean, they already in the state of Washington, they already have the highest minimum wage. Their state wages, it's among the highest, is $9.25 or $9.23, and that's the highest in the state. In of all the state minimum wages, I believe it could be changes recently. I'm looking at 2013 numbers on my screen.
And I want to add to that, the SeaTac area, the Seattle-Tacoma area, they see, at least in a part of it, the $15 minimum wage already.
I mean, this law is a Seattle proposed law, so it's a city wage, right? If I got that right? But the thing is that there are consequences for the minimum wage, and it's not all positive. Like in Australia, they recognize these consequences, and their minimum wage is for 4 sets of businesses, and it actually graduates based on your age. So for like a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old, you can actually their minimum wage is lower than our minimum wage, but as you go up higher, it progresses because they recognize that the minimum wage affects younger workers and workers with less skills more negatively than older workers who have more skills, since most people already make higher than the minimum wage. Like in the state of Washington, they have a youth unemployment percentage, and according to their 2013 numbers, and this is a 16 to 19 bracket, of 30.6%, and the national average is 22.9%, because people don't take chances on kids if you're paying a little more. So
right,
there are some negative consequences of this. So if they made it...
Yeah, but at the same time, those teenagers don't need money to survive and pay their bills. They should still be living with their parents, who hopefully, because of laws and wage increases like this, can afford to actually let their child stay with them without having to work. And
I understand that, but...
I agree with Sean, actually. I think
it helps younger kids to get into the workforce earlier. They get more experience and all that. Like, it would be, I'm not saying that it helps them to be forced in the workforce because their parents don't have any money, but like to build up experience, that kind of hurts you down the road, because if you look at any job application now, they want you to have experience, but it's like impossible to get experience now because nobody wants to hire you, be the first person to hire you. But I just, and to Jeff's point about how you can't make specific laws to target specific companies, that is true. But we have like 1 million regulations that only kick in when you have 500 employees or more. So you could, as long as it's not like Walmart or you don't name companies, you can't do that. But if you want to make a barrier, then that is possible. So I worry about how this will impact small businesses. I think that they might get a negotiation point in this $15 wage, like somewhere. We might end up with 12 in Seattle or something like that. So. Like,
that's the thing, though. They've already had their negotiation period. This was a compromise bill that was created by the mayor basically said, look, we're raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I want the labor unions and the labor leaders and the businesses and the restaurant owners and so forth to get together and find out how that's going to work for both of you, for both sides. And this is the result of that. So local businesses were included in this, smaller businesses as well as larger businesses in the area. So they wouldn't have agreed to something that they thought was going to make a huge negative impact.
I want to add to Sean's point and sort of expand on the negative impact portion, because as much as a good thing that this is, there are some drawbacks. Some people will lose their jobs. You know, I mean, some businesses will have to cut back a little bit in order to afford this. But once again, short-term pain leading to long-term gain. And so after a while, it evens out. And I'm glad, Sean, that you brought up the Australian model, because I think that's actually really smart. There's no reason teenagers need $15 an hour. You know, if you're a 16-year-old flipping burgers, you should get like, you know, $5-6 an hour, because that's extra money for your after-school job, and it gets you, I guess, well, experience working at McDonald's. But it doesn't have to be a job at McDonald's. It can also be another job, a more professional job with actual skills that can pay you less. And as you grow up, they have to pay you more. That's a model that makes sense, and I really think that we should take that model and look at it. See, we're here in America. We're in a great position that we can, and we've been doing this throughout all of our history, looking at other countries and taking the best ideas. Like, that's sort of what America's about. We take the best things from everyone else.
Yeah, but there's negative to everything too, because in that system, in that system, I immediately think that, well, what keeps businesses from waiting until a person gets to a certain age and then being like, oh, well, we'll have to let you go, and then hiring some younger kid who they can pay less.
Right, and there's going to be people like that, of course. And another thing is another negative would be price increases as well. You will see some higher prices, but when it comes down to it, when it's all spread out, it's not going to be like a $10 hamburger. It's going to be like maybe at most probably $1 for an extra buck for your Big Mac.
Maybe if that much. But
if that much,
it's not going to be a dollar for dollar thing.
Yeah. So I mean, while there are drawbacks, there are also benefits, and the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. When you look at it, and when you look at the data, and when you look at the science, and when you look at all this stuff, you realize that this is the right thing to do. And anyone who's opposing this is opposing it from the side of ignorance and from the side, I think, of greed.
Yeah, the thing is I don't really know about that. Like, I feel like when I go to CVS around here, right? Random plug for CVS. They have those automatic checkout machines, right? That used to be somebody's job, and now it's automatic checkout machines. And I've looked into it a little bit, and a lot of stores don't have those checkout machines because the wage that they pay is not offset by the amount of things that people steal because nobody's really watching them. So I feel like if you put the wage high enough, or to change that formula, then you're going to lose all those cashier jobs for those machines.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's one of the drawbacks. Like, that's exactly one of the drawbacks, that you're going to lose some jobs. But there are some other jobs where I don't think they'll eliminate cashiers completely, because there are a lot of people who will not use those automatic checkouts, and they will take their business elsewhere. And so, a lot of people in a lot of different places cannot be replaced. You can't replace everyone with machines.
Right.
Some jobs do require a human touch. And so there will be some loss, but there are some jobs that just cannot be replaced by robots and machines. And so ultimately, I think it's going to even out.
And new better jobs will come as well.